Here's page 2. We're on example 3. Again, in this problem, I have one fraction in the numerator, so I'm good there for now. In the denominator, I have two fractions, and I need to subtract them to combine them into one fraction. So let's get going on that. To subtract fractions, I need to have a common denominator. The least common denominator in this case will be 2 times 3 minus x. So we have x over 2. I'll leave some space, and then minus 1 over 3 minus x. So my first fraction has this denominator of 2, but it's missing the 3 minus x. So let me multiply both the top and the bottom by that missing part. In the second fraction, I have the 3 minus x, but I'm missing the 2. So I'll multiply top and bottom by 2. When I combine my numerators, I'm going to end up with that common denominator of 2 times the quantity 3 minus x. Let's work in the numerator. We're going to take the x and distribute it to both the 3 and the negative x, giving me 3x minus x squared. I take this negative 1 and distribute that to the 2, giving me a negative 2. But let's write that in order, in standard form. This is the original denominator, so I'm going to stick it down here. This is a positive 3x and a negative 2 all over my common denominator of 2 times 3 minus x. The original numerator can come back now, which was x squared minus x over x minus 3. So this is a division problem. I'm not going to rewrite this, but we know it's the green fraction divided by the blue fraction. So I'm going to keep the first, change the sign, and flip the second. So I'll do that right up here. Keep the first fraction, change the sign to multiplication, and then flip the second fraction. So 2 times 3 minus x goes on top. In the denominator, I get the negative x squared plus 3x minus 2. Before I smush this, though, I want each piece to be in factored form. So let me go to this first numerator. How can I factor this? I need to see if they have anything in common, which they do. I'll factor out an x, leaving me with x minus 1. The denominator, x minus 3, is fine as it is. Then we have our numerator 2 times 3 minus x, that's fine as well. Our denominator. We need to factor this. So let me take out first a negative, leaving us with x squared minus 3x plus 2. So I divided each term by negative 1, pulling that out to the front. And now I want to think of, I like to factor in the morning, so two numbers that multiply to make 2 and add to make negative 3. My negative is still out in front, but those two numbers are negative 2 and negative 1. Can you see this negative? I want to make sure that you can see that negative I put in front. Now this piece here, and I saved this till the end, we could have dealt with this earlier. This 3 minus x, this is not in standard form for us, it's not in order, so let's change it. I'm going to go over into your notes column. If I change the order, if I write the x first, it's a negative x, and then this is a positive 3. So negative x plus 3. If I were to factor out a negative 1, I would be left with x minus 3. These three things mean the same thing. So this last version is a nice way to see it. It's in standard form. We see the negative is pulled out. We have a positive x here that we like. So let's change that to a negative x minus 3, the quantity x minus 3. And you'll see that when we do that, we can cancel more out of this problem. So I'm rewriting my problem, but I'm changing what I have highlighted in yellow to our new negative x minus 3. Oops, that's a minus 1. Alright, so now I have this fraction, and I can write this piece as negative 2. It's 2 times a negative 1. So let me just change that to a negative 2. I have the magic of the smartboard here to help me. So we had a 2 earlier, and I'm multiplying that 2 by this negative. So 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. So we have this negative 2 in front times x minus 3. So I'm multiplying. Let me smush it all together. I'll group this x minus 3 so I know I can only cancel it out if I get the whole thing. I don't know where that highlighter came from. So let me see what's common. I have an x minus 3 in both the numerator and denominator. I may not have seen that before. I would not have seen that if I saw this 3 minus x, if I didn't change the order and rewrite it. Oh, and I did have this negative. Golly. Don't forget about that negative here, Mrs. Lawfer. Somebody needs some candy for that one. Alright, so we also see an x minus 1 and an x minus 1. This negative can go in the numerator, this negative can go in the denominator. Do you see that I forgot to bring that over from earlier? Make sure you rewrite everything well. So the only things I see left in the numerator are an x, a 2, and in the denominator I see an x minus 2. So I'm going to rewrite that as my answer. And I'm going to squeeze again into your notes. I'm hogging up all your note space. Alright, so we have a 2 and an x, and an x minus 2. This is our answer to example 3. Example 4. Might look like a doozy, but you can do it. Let's look at just this little piece here. Y raised to the negative 1 power. Now only the y has the exponent of negative 1. I'm going to erase this because you can rewind and see it again if you need to. So if we have y to the negative 1, we want to rewrite that as 1 over y to the positive 1 power. So remember, we don't want to leave any negatives in our exponents. Let's change all these exponents of negative 1 into fractions, or exponents with positive numbers. If I have in the numerator 1 minus x times now 1 over y. So I switched this y to the negative 1 to 1 over y. In the denominator, I will take this x to the negative 1 and rewrite that as 1 over x. And I'm subtracting from that another y to the negative 1, which is 1 over y. So here I'll rewrite that as x over y. I can treat 1 as 1 over 1. I want to subtract these fractions, so I need to find the least common denominator, which is 1 times y, or just y. So the first fraction is missing that y. I need to multiply both top and bottom by y. Let me just finish the numerator. Our common denominator is y. If I combine the numerators, I have y minus x. So my numerator is now one single fraction. Looking at the denominator, I have 1 over x minus 1 over y. My LCD here is x times y. So my first fraction is missing the y. Multiply top and bottom by that missing part. My second fraction is missing the x. Multiply top and bottom by that missing part. So my common denominator is xy. My numerator I have 1y minus, I distribute the minus 1 to the x minus x. So I have one fraction in the numerator, I simplified that, and one fraction in the denominator. So now it's a division problem, and I can keep, change, and flip. So I'll keep the first one, y minus x over y, change division to multiplication, and flip the second one, second fraction, y minus x. So we'll get in the habit of grouping everything. Everything is in factored form. So now let's smush it all together and we can cancel. There's a y minus x in both the numerator and denominator. There's a y in both the numerator and denominator. The only thing I'm left with is this x. And that's my answer. Take a minute, write a summary sentence about what you learned in class today, and then go on to try the 3 problems before next class. Good luck. See you in class.